The Republicans' House majority has become even slimmer in recent weeks, and so each race next November is growing more important. That includes in New York, where some surprising GOP victories last year were pivotal in Republicans gaining control of the lower chamber. Joining us now, former U.S. Congressman Tom Suozzi of New York. Last week, he was selected as the Democratic nominee in the upcoming February special election to replace recently ousted Republican George Santos. I don't even know where to begin. What happened? What you left, and what then happened with your seat? I want to even understand how that happened. And then secondly, do you kind of regret maybe not running again for Congress back when George Santos was in the picture?
No, I don't have any regrets. I wanted to be the governor of New York State, and I regret that George Santos became a member of the United States Congress. It's been bad for all of us. What happened is that he went from being someone who wasn't from the district, who didn't really know anybody, who didn't have any money, that I beat by, I forget what it was, 12 points back in 2020, and never really encountered him. It was the middle of COVID. And he adopted the Stop the Steal idea in November of 2020 and got the whole Trump hierarchy to get behind him. And he started raising money and building a network, and nobody was really paying attention. And he went from somebody who was a nobody, who had no attention, who had no infrastructure, that all of a sudden had an apparatus that hadn't existed before. And nobody paid attention from the press, nobody paid attention from the Republican Party, nobody really got much information on him from the Democratic Party.
Let me ask you a functional question, Congressman. He's obviously been a huge story, right, over the course of from the time that he won to the time that he left. But now he's gone. And so as you imagine running in this district again, does he matter at all? Is George Santos going to be part of any future campaign? And, is it going to be an election issue? Is there going to be a lot of debate about this? It seems like everyone on both sides now are just like, let's try to move past this guy and get back to what that politics of that district used to look like.
Yeah, I think it's over. And I think that's good for America, and that's good for the people of this district. They're ready to see a change. What people want now is somebody to actually pay attention to what they care about, because everybody's got this sense of dread. Everything you talked about on the show this morning, you talk about every day, there's dread. Everybody's dreading what's going on, and they look to Congress and they're like, what are you doing to help us? And so my campaign's not going to be about Democrats versus Republicans. People are sick of the finger pointing. People are sick of the attacking. They want someone who's going to work together with other people of goodwill to try and actually solve problems and help make their lives better when it comes to affordability, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to safety, when it comes to all the things that people care about, that they're worried about. When it comes to Israel, when it comes to Ukraine, they want people to address the sense of dread they have, because it's all nagging away. The rainstorms we've been having lately, we're like, what is there something really going on that we have to really be worried about? Who's going to address the things we really care about? And I've got a record of working across party lines to get things done to try and make people's lives better.
So that bipartisan pitch aside, though, of course, there is also the control of the House of Representatives will be up for grabs. The Republican majority is very, very slim. But they won it in 2022, most people believe, because of the Democrats' failures in New York State. So what is going to be better or different this time around in this state, reliably blue, but seats slipped away from your party last time?
I think that the people in my party recognize that we have not been communicating to the people of Long Island and Northeast Queens. We haven't been addressing the things that they're really concerned about, these things I was talking about earlier, the sense of dread. And they know that I'm the candidate that people know that will actually talk about the issues they care about. I did my first press release in a year the other day, and I was endorsed by local mayors. Half of them were Republicans, half of them were Democrats. I kicked off my campaign on whatever, I can't even remember now, a couple days ago, and had a big press conference, 150 people in Levittown, the nation's first suburb. And the guy whose house we were at was a former New York City policeman who said, I've never voted for a Democrat except one, Tom Suozzi. So we want people to recognize that we hear what they're saying, and we're going to try and address the things that they care about.
Can I just follow up on that, Congressman? Which is, what do they care about? And to what extent are you hearing people talking about the border? To what extent are you hearing them talking about things like Gaza, about Israel, about Ukraine? Or is it all local? Is it all domestic? How
affordability is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
People are really, state and local tax deduction is so important to us here in New York State. And in other Democratic states, typically, President Trump said, forget about those guys.
So you're going to bring back SALT?
Yes, I'm going to do. It's going to be my biggest focus. Also, they're concerned about immigration. That's a real concern that people have. They're concerned about crime. Now, there are people, a smaller percentage of people are concerned about Israel. I'm very concerned about Israel. I understand where you're coming from. You know this stuff like the back of your hand. This is an existential threat for all of us. Ukraine, I'm really concerned about Ukraine. That's a smaller percentage of the people, but the people that are concerned about that are really intense about it. And they want us to make sure that we stand with Ukraine and stand with Israel.
All right, Democratic nominee for Congress in New York, Tom Suozzi. Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We appreciate it.